Today, I have a powerhouse. Did I say powerhouse? No, it's a powerhouse. My friend, Dr. Matthew Norton. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Roberto, my brother. I'm so happy to be with you. I love our time together, so I've been looking forward to this.
We're going to have an amazing time. Dr. Matthew is one of the co-founders of Mindfluence, a company that focus on business success training, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing about that. And Dr. Matthew and I, we connected, I'm assuming 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Maybe, 4 or 5 even, maybe now. Time flies.
Time flies. And no, actually more, I'm sure. So I'd say like 5 years.
Okay.
And we used to actually live in the same complex in San Diego. And you used kind of like a Fridays afternoon, you used to have a coffee for half an hour. And then after 3 hours, like, man, it's 3 hours later, still talking. My phone is buzzing 3 hours later. I'm like, man, right. I gotta go home,
Our lives are wondering where we went.
Dr. Matthew is a brilliant guy, amazing person, amazing leader, beautiful family. And he's one guys who love to study human behavior. And I love to study human behavior. And I want to try to duplicate the conversations that you used to have in a coffee house here and just share this conversation, just amplify today with as many people as possible. And our audience here are entrepreneurs, and we all are interested in growing our businesses, right? And the topic that you chose today to share is about the 3 human-focused secrets for greater business success. Who doesn't want that? So, Dr. Matthew, welcome to be here today, brother.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So, tell a little bit about the background. First, before we get into the 3 secrets, share with us about Mindfluence. Why you guys launched Mindfluence?
Well, because you had influenceology, and we wanted to be like you, Roberto, when we grew up, and so you had that name taken. So we thought if we could get influence with mind, then we got that one.
Oh, okay. I'm going to pay 10 grand just for the plug. Thank you so much.
As a doctor in my practice for 33 years, right? The main way I saw people is body, mind, and spirit human beings who were unique, who wanted to get somewhere in life, and there were pain challenges, there were issues that were blocking them. And one of the key things that I always was intrigued by was not just physical causation, but what was going on mentally, emotionally, spiritually with people, what on some of these other levels. So I really already liked psychology, brain science, and so I kept seeing people through the lens of how can I know more uniquely who you are, what you care about, so that I can then know better how to help you, better how to help set you free so that you can get where you want to go. And everybody was different, right? It's like, that's why I've always felt like any kind of cookie cutter approach to business, to relationships of any sort, doesn't make any sense because everybody's unique. So if we're going to serve people, then I think we need to know who the people are that we're serving and how do they want to be served. We think, well, people want to be served the way that I want to be served. Well, that's not necessarily true. Or they value the same thing I value. So I make my recommendations, I make my contribution, I speak expecting it to land in a certain way because that's what I care about. Well, what if they don't care about that? What if that's not what is primarily driving them? So I've been using assessment tools to understand human beings for 23 years. They weren't mine most of the time. I hadn't created any at that point, but it changed the way I worked with people. And I reached a point to where I realized I would never hire anyone ever again. I would never want to collaborate with anyone. I would never want to partner in any way. I would never recommend people marry anybody without studying them more. If they're worth having a relationship with, they're worth studying.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I know, like, for those who don't know Dr. Matthew, he has a super deep knowledge on profiles, on assessments, and I know you develop you. Even you actually developed the 4 core. I'm sure we're going to talk about that today. So I admire that. So let's talk about those little secrets about unleashing human performance, right? Because so let's talk about it. I'm curious now. You got me curious.
Yeah, because I didn't tell you what I was going to say.
No, I really don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, so the first thing is how do we tap into this top priority business fuel? Everybody needs fuel for their business. What is the top priority fuel? The answer is, from my perspective, your team.
Okay.
And there's a couple of different key points that I want to share about that. First of all, I think it's really important that we clarify as specifically as possible where we are leading people. If we want people to go with us, if we want people to be a part of what we're doing, then it's nicer if we can tell people where we're going and be like inviting people to get into the Uber car with us, and yet we have not informed them where the car is headed. And so a lot of people get in their business car and they haven't really clarified exactly what that is. They might have a vision statement, a mission statement, but it's too vague. And once it gets created, it's usually filed somewhere, right? So we came up with, a few years ago, this came to me. I thought a metaphor for this is the Wizard of Oz. Because with the Wizard of Oz, what do we have? We have Dorothy and her friends. We're going to come back to talking about Dorothy and her friends in a minute. But they're going somewhere, right? They're off to see the wizard. They're wanting to get to the Emerald City. Now, they want to get to the Emerald City for different reasons. It means something different for each of them, but they have a common destination that they're on board for because it holds an answer for them. It holds a life. It holds a transformation, right? You mentioned about being transformed, not just being informed. Mm-hmm. The Emerald City holds something transformative in their minds. And they may spend, all of us may spend our lives for the most part on the journey, right? We're on the yellow brick road. We're not spending the bulk of our lives living in the Emerald City, but we're aiming toward an Emerald City. So we've worked with a lot of businesses with helping them look at what does the Emerald City dream outcome look like for the leaders, owners, leaders, for the team, for the patients or clients, and for the larger community. So that's one thing, is to be able to clarify and paint it, and even hire in part based upon that.
So give an example of like one of the mistakes that people, or maybe the people that you coach, the business that you did consulting with, where people were not clear. They were in business, maybe the owners or maybe the team, they're not clear about their Emerald City. Do you have an example that you can explore or illustrate?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples, and I can think of a particular practice that I work with to where they're passionate people, right? Mm-hmm. And they have, and they're in fact some of the most passionate people in what they do of anybody I know, and yet they still didn't know what it looked like, felt like, when I finally arrived. How do I know that I've gotten there? So they were making progress. Their numbers were growing. They were making more money. They were serving more people, but they didn't have a real sense of what is arriving there look like for them. Like, it's always just more, right? It's more patience, more money, more, and then maybe eventually I'll get some time freedom too, or whatever. But once they went through this Emerald City process, they began to clarify what this looked and felt like for their lifestyle. What did it look like to care for these people? How did that feel for them, for some approximate number, if that's what mattered to them? What does it look like for the team? What is the team like when they're firing on all cylinders?
I love that. Marcos Mendonça on LinkedIn said, having a mission, knowing where you're going is crucial. Thanks for reminding me. You're welcome, brother. I'm glad you're joining us. I love that. I appreciate that.
Well, even Gallup, talked about the importance of shifting from a paycheck-driven mission to more of a purpose-driven mission. So that's an important piece. I don't want to camp too long on that one, but
Okay.
that to me is foundational, because if I'm saying that from a human perspective, we're talking human secrets, right? We're not talking systems, process, technology here. We're talking, what are we doing with the humans, which includes us in the category, right? So the first thing is know where we're leading them. And then the second piece is to know that your team is more important than your customers, your clients, your patients, whatever you call your people, practice members, whatever that would be. They're more important. Why are they more important? And this comes back. There's a doctor that I've been working with for a while that was a solo doctor, right? Not just solo only doctor, but solo, I don't have a team either. I'm just doing this by myself, which I was never a fan of that, but that's when we met, that's what she was doing. And so began to challenge her on that, to how many people, as she kept getting busier and because she was successful. It wasn't like she was just mediocre. She was gaining ground continually and she was burning out, but she had a fear of hiring a first person. So she needed to realize that a team member, and then now we're looking at more team members, was more important than a focus solely on herself serving and taking care of more people. She needed other people. And then when you've got people, then a focus on developing those people, because they have influence, right?
For sure.
And in the world of influenceology and mindfluence, right? Your team has influence, for better or for worse. They're going to impact the people you're serving, and they're going to be impacting the larger community you'd like to serve, affect your brand one way or the other. They're either representing you in a powerfully positive way, or they are compromising, challenging, and even creating a negative brand experience into the community. So those pieces, they can also help innovate for you, with you, collaborate in brainstorming new solutions to possibilities that it's not just you figuring out and telling them. You now have team members who can do this.
What is the number, from your experience, when you do these assessments and you help people find the right candidates and train them? What is the number one mistake you see entrepreneurs when hiring a new team member?
When they're hiring a new team member, the main mistake is they're not prioritizing how important that decision is and committing to know them as deeply as possible so that they can serve them. So in other words, if they interview well, sometimes I've had people where it's just like, well, they were breathing, they were available, they showed up on the radar screen and I hired them. Others have some more rigorous process, but people can interview well, people can have great resumes, people can have recommendations of people vouching for them, people can have great technical skill sets, and those things are the things the decisions are being based upon, not do I really know the key strengths of this individual. Do I really know in a way that they can't game? Everybody's trying to date. Everybody wants to present well for a first date, right?
For sure.
In dating, how long might it be before you knew all the ins and outs of this person? Sometimes it's not until after you're married, right?
Yeah.
And then people go, where was that earlier? How did you manage to conceal it? Because we're all on our best behavior. I want the job. I want to work for you, Roberto. And if I'm going to tell you what do I think you want to know? And some people are really good at that. But if we can get some behind the curtain, kind of bringing the Wizard of Oz back in, if we can pull back the curtain and get more insider information about people, now we can make a better decision as to whether they fit for us or not.
Got it. And the inside information through quote unquote assessments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, that's the only way that you can get past somebody's presentation abilities.
Okay, so let's talk about that. This is me. I'm gonna put you in a spot a little bit here. So
Sure.
in a good way, because you're an expert.
Yeah.
So and I totally follow you as far as showing the best side, presenting the quote unquote the ideal persona to get hired, right?
Right.
I get
Right.
that.
Yeah.
While we don't know the whole story, don't know that part.
Right.
Can that person though, when doing an assessment, quote unquote play their role, that quote unquote the presentation, kind of like answer the questions biased, so that I create this image that's not really me? That was just a question.
Yeah.
Follow me so far?
No, it's a good question.
Kind of like I'm going to answer the assessments
Right.
that the companies give me based on, not based how truly I am or how I feel, but based
Right.
on the job I want to get. So that is, in other words, the validity or
Right.
the consistency
Right.
or how professionals like yourself overcome that. By the way, before I answer, Dr. Bradley Bolke said, Dr. Norton, one of my best coaches from my past, one of the reasons Bayside exists, gives you prop. Haley Jules, what's up, Haley? Awesome Cairo dudes. I'm a Cairo dude now. I love it. I love it. Awesome job, buddy. So that's it's just like I always had this question.
It's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer has to be that, from my experience in 23 years of doing this, it is true that some people will try to game assessments like they would game an interview, right?
Yep.
If people are trying really hard to look a certain way, is that possible to skew it some? It is possible. If people are dedicated to misrepresentation, it's possible. It's true.
Wow.
But if we make it very clear to people that because the assessments, the best assessments, not just ours, and I believe ours are among that category, but the best assessments are set up in such a way that you don't know exactly what's favorable to answer. And so we let people know, just give us your quick gut level response to this, because if you seek to alter it, now you're going to end up with something that it doesn't represent you.
I love it. So basically what I heard that is about two things. Answer my question. Number one is about the quality of the assessment, how the assessment per se is built. Number two is how you frame the assessment, because he who sets the frame wins the game. She who sets the frame wins the game. So if you frame the assessment as, hey, by the way, this is about your benefit. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Make sure you're going to enjoy it. I get it. Thank you.
Because who wants to be in a job that isn't a good fit? You know, so when we're looking at hiring, we want to make sure, I mean, first of all, we need to know what's the benchmark for the position, right? A lot of times people have never benchmarked the position. Like, what key strengths? We have a vague sense of what we want. I have many people I talk to say, well, I kind of want somebody who's really good with people and really organized. Well, oftentimes those are not the same person anyway, but that's as far as they've thought. So, but what's the collection of key strengths to thrive in that role? So sometimes we don't know 100%, right? So, because there's a lot of different roles. There are companies that have benchmarked roles, but if you try to benchmark office manager, well, what does that mean exactly? That means a million different things in people's businesses. They do it. What are the skills required for that? Some need to be more people skills. Some are much more analytical, detail, organizational skills. So it's like, what does that look like for whatever role you're calling in your business or on that team? And we make our best guess at first. This is what we think the key strengths should be. And now we can do assessments to match the key strengths of an individual to what the role is that we're asking. But then over time, we can see who are the ones who are thriving in that position. and what are their key strengths, and we can fine tune and modify the job benchmark by saying these are the things that those people had in common that are likely the core of what's going to help them thrive.
Love that.
Make sense?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So what do we want to know? And you mentioned about the core 4 before. So I never intended, let me just say this, I've been doing assessments 23 years, I never intended to create our own. We were invited into an opportunity that was too good to pass up for something that wasn't going to work from a cost perspective, first and foremost, to be able to squeeze it into this opportunity, because I was going to have to buy these other companies' assessments, and then I needed some free versions. I needed some opportunities for a sample starting for a hiring app in the dental industry. Well, so I either was going to turn down the opportunity, or I had to get creative and figure out what am I going to do about that. And that opened a door to say, okay, if I'm going to do a small free one, I need to create a whole one so that I can see what parts would be distilled down for a reasonable sample free version, just a small one just for people to try, right? And so they loved it. And we were reapproached by that person and a different group to then say, what could you create assessments to help us determine the best candidates for public offices? And I thought, well, that's an intriguing challenge. First, I thought, I don't know, but you know me enough, Roberto, to go, okay. No, I said,
I want to figure it out.
Yeah, I can do it. And so we had to think about it. We talked with them. What did they think? What were they looking for? But what ultimately resulted was Mindfluence now has 11 proprietary assessments that are our own. So we put together a package of things, formatted, framed it for them, but we have these that we can use. And then we distilled out a core 4.
Why you call core 4?
Core 4, because these, good question, Roberto. The core 4, because these are the 4 foundational assessments to me for determining the key strengths an individual brings to a position, for a role, and for a team. And if we know those, if we have those insights, we're going to be able to determine if this is a good fit or not.
Can you give at least the 4 things or the 4 themes?
Yeah.
Just high level.
Yeah.
Just high level.
Yeah. So the first thing is we want to know their emotional agility, right? People talk about emotional intelligence. We are framing it as emotional agility, because I want to know even more how agile people are with their emotions, not just how intelligent, maybe more abstractly.
Oh, I like that. Now that's worth the interview right here, because I love that.
That's where the rubber has to meet the road somewhere, right? It's one thing to go, hey, I got this book. I know I'm emotionally intelligent, really. Ask my friends, they know me. But
I'm just pissed off for like the last 30 days. I'm just pissed off, processing my feelings,
Yeah. So how emotionally agile are we is one key thing. And especially when you look at the climate we're living in right now, who wouldn't like to know they had somebody who was a bit more emotionally agile in any given moment with other people? How about that? How often are things going to come up where there's other people around who might have different values, different opinions about things? Now what are we going to do? What leaks out under those circumstances? So emotional agility is critical. The research would say that it's probably the single most important thing we could assess. A second one is a person's inspiration sources. And that one's probably the most foundational. It's most foundational because that one tells what people value. What do you care about? When you get up every morning, why would you want to come to this place and work? How does this going to fit with what we hold as values, what we do daily here, how does that tap into your contribution? Where is your fulfillment? So the inspiration sources shows the lenses people are looking through when they look out at the world, and to say, here's where my fulfillment is. Now, how are we going to match it? It may not mean that you don't hire them based on this particular one. It's probably not the one most critical for a hiring decision, but it's probably most foundational for if you do hire them, How are we going to engage them at the highest level? We want them all in. The answers are in the inspiration sources. So that's the second one. The third one is their cognitive styles. Like, how do they think? Do they tend to be more of a big picture thinker or more of a detail thinker? Do they think more, or does their brain naturally more go to ideas or processes or action or relationships? Well, there's 8 combinations there. It's nice to know that. That's a unique standalone thing, and I hadn't found that in an assessment anywhere else. So I'm excited about that as a unique offering. And then the fourth one would be kind of the equivalent of the DISC people are often familiar with, looking at behavior, what we call our action approach.
Okay.
And that tells how people orient to people, to tasks, to challenges, to pace. The cognitive styles and the action approach are probably the 2 in general that I would look at first and foremost to say, is this a fit for the role? What are they going to bring? Is that what we need? And then, do they have enough emotional agility that we want to hire them for anything? And if we are going to hire them, where are we going to have to develop them? Because we do not want to leave subpar, emotionally agile people in any role, really, without helping coach them forward.
This is fantastic. A question that just popped here in my mind. How often, because people change, not all values, throughout life they change. Yeah. How often do you recommend a company organization to run assessments? Let's say the same assessment every 3-4 years. Do you have a protocol for that, or depends? How does that work?
I haven't distilled it out into a protocol per se. There's kind of different opinions on that. There's some things that will tend to stay generally the same, barring some major life change, a fulfillment of a need, something that makes people really reevaluate their lives and what they care about. Their action approach is likely not to change a whole lot. But because if we're doing this with people who are candidates for a position, I have come to feel, I don't have any science on it, but I've come to feel like if we could look at that again, say within a year, now that the person is more comfortable in the position, they're no longer an applicant. They have now been doing the role, working with a team for a period of time. Now I'd like to see if other things are showing up. It may not be so much that they've changed radically. It may just be that other things are emerging for them.
Got it. Now, Marcos Mendonça asked the questions, what tools do you use to measure their emotional agility, inspirational sources, cognitive styles, and action approach when interviewing online?
Okay. Well, that sounds like a commercial segue setup.
I mean, he's asking them like, okay.
Okay. Well, so I'll make the shameless pitch right now and say, if you want some more information, you can go to mindfluencerevolution.com/core4, COREFOUR, and you can kind of see the web page that explains in more detail.
What is the website again?
Mindfluence Revolution, MIND Fluence, not Mind Influence. Mindfluence, FLUENCE, revolution.com/core4, COREFOUR. That'll give you a good overview of why we think this matters, why you should care. It will also tell you about pricing for, one or cost savings for more, and also bonuses that we're offering. One key piece in this, which is why we're offering bonuses on this, is I had somebody just a couple of days ago that's a collaborative friend of mine, a colleague. I was debriefing her Core 4, and she said, this is awesome. The assessments are good. The reports are good. Having you explain them and integrate them and apply them for me, I don't know how you're going to accomplish that more passively ever. I know you would like to be able to be entrepreneurially time-focused, leveraged, or whatever, and I thought about it, and I'm probably just going to have some disciples, right, at some point, who can carry on because I've been doing this 23 years, I think it is a gift. It's a talent I've developed also for over a long time. So it's not easy to do that. But she said, what you just pulled together and pointed out by bridging across these assessment reports was a game changer. So I have one more point. I'm not sure where we are in our timing. So let me just reiterate. One of them was tapping into the top priority business fuel, which is your team. Where are you leading them? And why is it important to empower them and get them fully on board? The second one was it's essential to deeply know the essential strengths, the key strengths of your team. And then the third one is it's important to hire for the role and the team fit. So, and I have a sample chart.
I'm gonna show it here.
Oh. Yeah. So, do I have control of moving that, or only you do? I guess you.
I think you have, brother. If you make your try to make your screen a little bit bigger. If you move your document.
Or I'll just have you do it. I don't see where I have access to change it, but let me just focus on this one for a second, because there's 4 pages here, and I don't see where I'm able to. Yeah. So basically, what this is the core 4 in each of its components. What I love and other people have loved about this is we're getting 4 human dimensions that we're measuring in the core 4, but they are separate individual assessments. Value of that, they can be taken separately. So smaller doses, I can do one now and spend 15 minutes. And then later in the day, I don't have to do it all straight through, which I think is a value. Also, it gives us 4 separate looks, separate windows into people on these different human dimensions. So then in the bonuses, we put together these charts for people. So this is one financial company that we were working with. And so there's 2 owners here, there are 3 other team members, and there's 2 job candidates. So I just wanted to be able to share this to kind of see the value of what you can get here, because it's not only important, like we were talking about, to benchmark the role. What are the key strengths I'm looking for to thrive in the role? And does this person bring them sufficiently to make it a good hiring decision? But how do they fit with the team? What does the team need? And who are the people they're likely to be working with the most? How do they interface with those people? So this particular one, you can see there's 7, it's the 7 C's of inspiration, which I thought was kind of fun, right, Roberto?
Oh, I love that.
C's of inspiration. Then we have a little translation if they don't like all those C's for what those mean underneath. So, but this gives us a window, and we can look at the average of the team at the bottom. So we can see where is the team strong? What might, if we're looking to hire and we have a couple of choices, like here we have a couple of candidates, then we can see, well, this person fits something that is not only really good for the role, but they bring something to the team that the other person doesn't bring, right? Go ahead and if you can go to the next page.
I don't think I'm looking here, brother. I don't think I can put. I think is this a Word document or what?
Maybe I can go to. Oh, okay. Maybe I have to go over to here and go to the next page. Sorry.
Yeah. Now next page. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. I was trying to change it on the screen.
Yeah. Now we're full mode. Perfect.
Technology. I've done many of these things a lot. But,
anyway. Looking good. It's looking good.
Okay, so action approach. This is the equivalent of the disc. So we can look at these, and you can see for this person, this one owner, these first 2 are more extroverted. The other owner is these 2 are more people oriented. This particular person more people oriented. This person more task oriented, with the top 2 in red. These 2 people are both more introverted. But we can look at the specifics. We can look at the team average. We can see, okay, if we're comparing these 2 people for a position, is there something different? Does this matter more or this matter more? We can look, let me just show you a couple others real quick. If we go to the next one, here is the cognitive style. So you can see here's these first 4 are more big picture. The second 4 are more detailed. across ideas, systems, or process, action, and relationships? Well, we can see, look, we've got a 67 average for big picture process. Well, but big picture action, not so much. Detail relationship stuff, not so much. See, so we can make some decisions, not only for the role, but for the team. And let me show you the last one is emotional agility, to where we can see, okay, an overall score, then we break it down into these 5 elements of emotional agility, the ones that are more for personal, the ones that are interpersonal, and we can also see the averages.
And that, what an amazing tool to use to step 1, hire your team. Step 2, to develop your team.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I also had a person the other day say, what do you do differently? Because I see people use some assessment or another to hire, and then it's kind of off on the shelf. The decision was made. Now it's no longer even mentioned. And I say, that's where the charts come in. That's where the development comes in. That's where we want every team member to know this about each other. We want the leadership to know all their team members, to study them.
Amazing. So one more question before we go. When you look at someone's resume, right? The traditional, they're selling, right? The resume they're selling,
right?
And then you do the assessment. If you were to, when you recruit someone for your team or recommend, which do you put, like, do you have like a weight category? You know, like resume, the paper is 5, the assessment is 5 or 5, 10. You know what I mean? Like, do you have, what is the weight? Or
that's a really good question. What I tell people to do, because you don't want to be doing assessments on everybody for cost sake or for time's sake, right? So I tell people, I mean, I've had people not get confused on this and just start assessing, like walking down the street, assessing people. Maybe they're just having too much fun. But, you know, what I tell people is make sure that they are qualified. Make sure, they have to have whatever, if there's technical skills required as the ticket to get in, make sure that they're who you want. Do they know what unless you can just train them all of that. Are they okay with the hours and the pay? Have you discussed these things? So I would do an interview, whatever your interviewing process. We have recommendations to help with hiring beyond assessments, but whatever your process is, look at their resume, have them send something in, have them do a video first. You know, there's a lot of different strategies for that. Talk to them, discuss if they're interested and you like them and you feel like I could hire this person, then they're good with the pay, the hours, and the other team members that are key have also been a part of the interview and they feel good about them. Now, once we've got it down to say the top 2 or 3 candidates, now let's do assessments. So I say all the other things are the hurdles you set up for them to jump over.
I got it.
You're not basing your complete hiring decision on assessments. You're saying, okay, I feel good about you. You apparently feel good about us and the opportunity. Now let's get down to, do your key strengths fit and how do they fit, role and team.
Dr. Matthew, thank you so much for more. I'm sure people watching this and you're ready. They're like, okay, what else can I get more information, learn more about the Core 4? What is the first website, if you're open to, the best way to reach out to you personally? What's the best way to go from here with you?
Yeah, I would say that the best thing to get the insights on what we talked about today is to go to mindfluencerevolution.com/core4. You can also reach me at Dr. Norton at mindfluencerevolution.com. I'm happy to connect with you, happy to answer a question. And you can go to mindfluencerevolution.com, our general website. That's not going to be currently maybe as optimally helpful at helping you see these things we were talking about today. Our most current contributions aren't fully reflected there yet. But you can learn more about us if you want to, or some other things that we stand for and what we've done and that sort of thing. So that can be good.
I'm so grateful for you. It's fascinating because it's good to tap into your own world. You know what I mean? Usually go back and forth, but I was so fascinated. I just had a thought. Nowadays, there's so much, and I don't know if you have any experience. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. There's a lot of people, entrepreneurs, who do hire people virtually, virtual assistant.
Yes.
It's a big thing, huge thing.
Yep.
And I can see that being for entrepreneurs who doesn't have an HR person, who doesn't have like a HR manager. For big companies, it's a no-brainer. If you have been, it's a no-brainer, right? But for the guy who's getting traction, like, man, I don't have an HR person, I gotta make a decision. Are these core 4, or you have other assessments recommends that they can take for virtual assistant roles?
That's a really good question, and a really good point you made right there real quick for me to comment on, which is these same core 4 apply. And I was addressing this just recently with more people working virtually anyway, right? It's even more critical if people are not in front of you that you know what inspires this. Like, why are they working for you? Why are they at home actually still working? Are they working because you're monitoring them and tracking their retina to make sure that they're actually on the computer doing work? What do you like? What is their emotional agility? That's important to know for virtual people, right? I don't care if it's a virtual assistant that's just that you got off of Fiverr or whatever, but it becomes critical for anybody who's working virtually. And the other thing that you said is it's a no-brainer for big companies. I would say this is even a bigger no-brainer for somebody who's hiring 1, 2, 3 people, because there's not room to hide anybody who is with a subpar engagement. Not that you want.
That's good. Great point. I love that.
You've got 1 shot or 2 shots or 3 shots with team members. You want to make sure they are the best fit. And how are you going to not only hire them but develop them? So it's really key, because you need those people even more than is necessary in a massive company.
I love that. Dr. Norton, thanks so much, brother, for sharing with us. I appreciate it very much. I learned a ton today. Thank you so much. Dr. Matthew with mindfluence.com.
Yeah, mindfluencerevolution.com.
I'm sorry, mindfluencerevolution.com.
Only because
you hypnotize me, brother. Hypnotize me. See?
Only because if you put mindfluence without mindfluence revolution, you're going to find somebody else who.
Mindfluence revolution.
Yeah.
Mindfluence revolution. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I appreciate it very much, brother. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.